I went back down for real quick. Oh, Mark, well, I missed it. I went to the wrong place. I thought it was going to be.
We will come to order. Welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. We will begin by standing for a moment of silence, and if Mr. Jones, if you would lead us in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is to approve the agenda. When we approve the agenda, we approve the consent agenda and all the items in it, including any previous meetings, such as special meetings. Do I hear a motion? So moved. Motion to approve. Second? I'll second it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it, so moved. I'll now turn the meeting over to the Director of Schools.
Good afternoon. It's good to see such a full house this evening. I have several recognitions I want to make this evening, so I'm going to come down front and do we have Joe Cox with us this evening? This is our student, Joe Cox, who is a senior at Sullivan North High School. I'm going to take just a moment to go over some accolades and recognize this young man for a very, very important accomplishment. Joe, as I said, is a senior at Sullivan North High School. He was recently selected as the junior firefighter of 2018 for the Bloomingdale Fire Department, which is led by Captain Tim Bradshaw. Besides volunteering at Bloomingdale Fire Department, Joe also works 2 after-school part-time jobs, participates in plays at the Lamplight Theater, taking on technical and other various roles. Additionally, he's active in sports at Sullivan North, participating on the track and cross-country team. If that is not enough, Joe is also the commanding officer of the Sullivan North's Navy Junior ROTC program, where he leads other cadets and also participates in drill meets and academic competitions held throughout the year. Channel 5 WCYB recently featured Cadet Lieutenant Commander Joe Cox on the news as a star student, where he disclosed his goals of being in the military upon graduation. Now, all that is great, but the reason we're here tonight is Joe's hopes were finally realized when he received notification that he was accepted to the Naval Academy Preparatory School, where he where he will report in July of 2019. Upon completion, Joseph will attend the United States Coast Guard Academy in New London, Connecticut, which is ranked as the #2 regional college in the North, according to the annual ranking of colleges conducted by the U.S. News. Joe is our first known Sullivan North High School student to attend the United States Coast Guard Academy. I first met Joe a few years ago when he was serving on a committee that we had, and he was providing some input to us on a project that we had that we were talking about. And I knew right away that he was a special young man. We are very, very proud of you, very proud of not only how you represent yourself, your school, and our school district, but more than anything, that you are willing to take on and serve your country, and I am forever grateful to you for that.
Hear, hear.
I have the next group of students I want to recognize, and I'll ask Mr. Flannery if he'll come up along with me, and we are going to recognize our students that attended the SCOPE conference. And I'd like for Mr. Flannery to tell the group, tell our audience and our board this evening a little bit about SCOPE.
So SCOPE stands for Student Congress on Educational Reform, Policy and Education. There we go. And what they get to do is they basically see how policy is made. They get to do mock situations where they get to work with in teams. What I like about the structure, I think the students really benefit, was as soon as they get there, they split them up and put them in different teams, so they're not working with anyone else that they know. So they have to take on debate topics. It's just a real in-depth. Yeah, if they don't care, just come on up. Yeah, so we can go right into this of how policy is made in Tennessee and how policy is put into place. So, and I think that they actually, I know a couple of them wanted to have something to say themselves about the trip.
And it's common for us to, as we recognize our students, to ask them for some comments about their trip. Some have been for 2 years in a row. They went as a junior and then went again as a senior. So I would ask, who wants to make a comment about their trip first?
I'll take one.
Go ahead, Joe.
First of all, I just want to say thank you to the board and as everyone in Sullivan County that gave us the opportunity to do this and represent Sullivan County in all the schools in school systems in Tennessee. Something that we've all gained from this is camaraderie from not just all of us in Sullivan County, but friendships that we formed all over Tennessee. And like I said before, it allowed us to branch out and improve our communication skills, get better informed on school policies, and more importantly, help us become more involved and informative members in our communities.
Well said. Go ahead.
My name is John Martin Harbaugh, and I'm from Sullivan East. And the SCOPE trip was amazing, not only because of the reasons that Joe just mentioned, but also the fact that we got to see what the board actually does and how it operates. Because we always hear with the school board, like, oh, school board did this, oh, it did that. We never actually know how it works, or is it just like this secret group who hides in the background that we never actually see. And so we actually got to see how it works. And I was actually elected as one of a mock school board member. And so I got to see how it operates and how they vote on things and choose legislation. So that was a very enlightening experience for our trip.
Joe.
All right, my name's Emily Roberts, and I'm a junior at Sullivan South. And I really enjoyed the trip because I got to understand, like John said, just how it works and how to get more involved and really make a difference in the community.
I'm Gabe Aquino. I'm from Central High School. I'm a junior there. And it was an amazing experience that we went on, and it was a great friendship builder between all of us, and we got to meet a lot of new people, and just some of the stuff that we debated about was pretty cool. And I know I got to debate about whether PE credits, like if you were involved in club sports, should be involved as PE credits. You know, we took on the con side of that, so that was a little difficult to debate. But we had a lot of fun, and it was a blast to just get to debate and see all the things that were able to happen there.
I'm Sadie King, and I'm a senior at Central, and my favorite part of SCOPE is meeting new people, like from the schools in our school system and from other school systems, because I met people from like Tennessee High and Science Hill, like that were in my group too, that like I still talk to, so that was really good. And some of us will go to school together next year, so that was good. And just to see how all different school systems like are so different and just talk about that is a really cool experience.
My name is Rebecca Skaggs, and I'm from Sullivan East, and I think one of the great parts about SCOPE, kind of like Sadie said, is meeting new people and forming friendships with those not only in Sullivan County but also throughout the state. And it's also a really great tool to see the behind-the-scenes work within other school systems.
I've got their certificates for them tonight. I'm going to give them their certificates, but I would also like to say thank you again. I think we were represented very well in, was it Murfreesboro? In Murfreesboro. I want to thank Mr. Flannery and Dr. Palmer for chaperoning this fine group of young men and women on their trip, and we're very, very proud of you all. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Appreciate it. The next group that I want to recognize, and I'll ask Ms. Nave to come up with me, are our U-Trust grant winners. Every year we have the opportunity for teachers in our school district to make application for grants that are available. These are judged away from our school district, and we're very proud to announce our winners this evening.
I'm right here. And if you would, when we call your name, just come on up. The first one is Jada Sherfy from Bluntville Middle. I love that I saw Jada here. She is doing some things with Q-ball microphones and vocabulary and accents and technique, so it sounds like her kids are going to have a lot of fun in their classroom. Next up is Leanne Zolo from Bluff City Elementary. Is she here? She is doing rocket books, and if you've ever seen those, you go in there and you write and take notes in it, and then when your book gets full, you stick it in the microwave, you put it in there, and it wipes it clean, and you start all over. It's really pretty cool. I think the kids are going to be excited about that. Next up is Sherry Lilly, and I know she's here. She is from Bluff City Middle School, and she is going to be doing maker spaces in hers. So it's going to be an extension of the STEM program, so that'll be a lot of science, technology, engineering, and math that the kids will get to do in the library. And as you can see, Sherry's very excited. Because if you say two things to teachers, they get really excited. Free food and free money. Free money's better. Next up is Megan Vanoy. And I really want to come to Megan's class because she is going to use virtual reality to go on field trips for her social studies class. So you're going to walk by her classroom and her kids are going to have these weird, strange goggles on, and they're going to be transported to different times and places. So she said she wants to make history come alive. So I said that I would have loved to have her as a history teacher because I didn't really care for history. So I want to come to your classroom. Next up is Holston Elementary, and I saw Kim here. Kim Bell is a special education teacher there, and Kim has gotten some Chromebooks, and she is going to be working and doing some text-to-speech with the Chromebooks. that will help her students with writing. So Kim is very excited about that. I'm sure the kids will be because you have to
And they keep asking, where's the computers? Where's the computers?
Next up is from Holston Middle, Sandra Clark. I don't think I saw her here, but she is going to do robotics equipment, and that's going to be really cool. I know a number of people, Holston Valley, hosted a robotics competition this past year, so robotics are something that our kids love, and we're really excited about that as well. Next up is, let me go back, I think I skipped one, Ryan Lovelace at Innovation Academy. He is getting 20 iPads, and he is very excited for a lot of the project-based learning that they are going to do in Innovation Academy. Next up is Denise McReynolds. She is from Sullivan Central High School. She is a chorus teacher, and she is getting Yamaha piano expansion kits. And so she's going to use her iPad and headphones to walk around and actually help these kids working on the piano. Because I asked her if she was going to need earplugs for that, but she said it's all done that way. So she's very excited, and your kids are too, I'm sure. Next up is Tom Rutherford and Jeremy McLaughlin. And they are from Sullivan Central High School. And they are going to actually get some things that, and I said, please say this in understandable terms because they teach physics. So I'm going to do the best I can to tell you what that is. My glasses are for this. They are going to build radio telescopes, which means they will be able to observe the moon and the sun in radio wavelengths, and this makes more sense to me. They are going to look at the structure of the galaxy, because that's some high-level stuff, but your kids will be very excited about doing that. Next up is Michael Sheffield from Sullivan East High School. He is a special education teacher there, and they, several of them came together and wrote this together to get a lot of different things, and it's going to be things they feel like are going to touch almost every student there. He is going to use these in his classroom, Chromebooks for his students, but also they're going to be doing projects together with chorus and with drama and with the video production classes. They're using mixer boards, and they're going to be able to do a lot of really cool things. Going to be doing some documentaries with their Appalachian Studies class. So it's a very comprehensive thing that they're doing there, and I'm excited to see what you guys are going to be able to pull off. And last but not least is Chelsea Seguin. She's a teacher and at Sullivan South High School, and we always need those calculators for especially the higher level math classes, and so she's getting some TI-84 calculators. So please give these people a great round of applause. Time out of their leisure time, which is not enough, is it? And wrote these grants to be able to allow their students to do some new and exciting things. So thank y'all very much. You want to say anything, Ms. Revelation?
I would just say congratulations to them, but also congratulations to your students who are going to be the benefactors of these wonderful grants. I'm intrigued. I'm like Karen. I'd like to go sit in the classrooms and get to experience what our students are going to experience. And as you can see, just about all of these grants were anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000, and so we're very, very happy to have that coming to our school district. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations. We have one more special group to recognize this evening, and they're going to come in here in just a second. You probably already saw them out in the hall. We have been very, very fortunate in the past few months to be able to have school resource officers added so that every campus in our school district now has a school resource officer. And as you
First of all, let me say thank you to our SROs for taking time out of their personal time to be here this evening so that the board could recognize you and that we can introduce you to our communities. We are thrilled in Sullivan County, and we feel very lucky, very special to have an SRO in every one of our schools, on every school campus. I think our SROs, we had an SRO in each high school for many years. I think about the last 10. I don't think even in the conversations and that we had about SROs that anyone would realize the impact that an SRO would have in a school, in an elementary and middle school in particular, as well as our high schools. We look at an SRO from outside as that person or that officer who is there on a daily basis to make sure that our students are safe. But that role of an SRO goes far beyond that piece. They are establishing relationships with students. They're letting students know that they're a trusted individual. They're educating students on what their role is, not only at the school, but in society and when they're on the job, when they're away from school. I'm going to take just a minute to introduce each one of them, but I'd also like to introduce Sergeant Jarrett Ratliff, who is our SRO, immediate supervisor here in the schools, and also our attendance supervisor. He goes to court and works with our students that are truant. Additionally, Captain Richard Frazier, who is here with us this evening, who supervises all our SROs as well as Jarrett and does a remarkable job with the training piece and the supervisory piece of our SROs. So I'd like to thank those two individuals as well as I introduce our SROs to you this evening. First of all, from Central High School, we have Nathan Lane. On our Bluntville Middle and Elementary campus, Cody Musser. Holston Middle, Elementary and IA campus, Zach Smith. Central Heights Elementary, Corinthian McDaniels. Indian Springs Elementary, Brandon Poff. Sullivan East High School, Raven Muntz. Bluff City Middle, Dana Sheehan. Holston Valley Middle, Phil Kiernowski. Mary Hughes, Jeff Bowling. Bluff City Elementary, Lacey Arnold. Sullivan North, Middle and High School campus, Jim Nygaard. Ketron Elementary, Brandon Carter. Sullivan South, Brad Lawson. Colonial Heights Middle, Jonathan Bright. Sullivan Gardens, KA, Travis Sampson. Miller Perry Elementary, Roger Marshall. Rock Springs Elementary, Kim Harrell. We also have Emmett Elementary. We have a SRO in training there, and while that person is in training, we have other SROs covering that campus. Oh, is he here? Oh, where is he? Hi. Okay. Yes, you're not over yet. What's his first name?
Clayton.
Clayton Potter. Michelle, do you see your SRO? Okay, good job. That's new to us then. That's great. So we're excited. We can't begin to thank our Board of Education and our County Commission enough for seeing the need and providing the funds to make this a reality for our school district. Our principals, our staff are thrilled, and our students and parents and communities are thrilled. So we felt like we wanted to bring our SROs up. We wanted to introduce them, and more than anything, we want to say thank you for wanting to be a school resource officer and spend your days with us. Thank you. Mr. Hughes, that concludes my comments this evening, other than to mention that we will be out of school on Good Friday, and after that it will be just a few weeks until graduations. I did send those graduation dates to all of you over the weekend, but just as a reminder, high school graduations are May 23rd and May 24th. So hopefully you've got that on your calendar and you'll be able to attend both those events. Every year it seems like time just passes even quicker. But what I want to say is, you know, we had a lot of recognition tonight, and I'm so proud of all of our students. I'm proud of our SROs. I'm very proud of our teachers and the efforts that they make to bring more tools and for our students to their schools. So thank you.
Okay, this is the part of our meeting that we designate for public comment. I have 4 requests for public comment. I'm going to go in the order that I received them. As I call your name, approach the podium, state your name and address and topic. You have 3 minutes. When you get close to the 3 minutes, I'll give you the sum it up sign and 20, 30 seconds to sum it up. First speaker will be Jim Jordan.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. I'm coming in regard, well, my name is Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan, 232 Colony Drive, Bristol, Tennessee. I have a wife, Karen, and 2 children, grown, with 4 grandchildren who live in this area. I was a graduate of Tennessee High School in Bristol and then King College, now King University. What brings me here tonight is actually a friend who let me know of the meeting. Sorry to say that I was not aware of the issue concerning My World textbook, but after I did receive the word, I began reading an article, and one of the statements in that article said that, which brought me here, was said, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Says that the God of Christianity is the same as Islam's Allah. And I don't know if that's true or not, if that's what the textbook said. I haven't read it, I will admit. So it may not be the issue. But anyway, it was reported that way in a newspaper by an article. So, and so my issue is with the truth of that statement. And if I would, I'd just like to read from the Gospel of John, chapter 18, verse 37. It said, Then Pilate said to him, So, you are a king? Jesus answered, You say that I am a king. For this purpose I was born, and for this purpose I have come into the world, to bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice. Pilate said to him, What is truth? So, to me, that was the issue, is the truth of that statement. Jesus said in John 14:6, I am the way, and the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
Amen.
Now, Christians believe that Jesus is not only the Son of God, but that He is God.
Amen.
And, amen. And Jesus Himself said that He was God. I'll give you a couple of references for that. We won't go into I don't have time. I've probably got another minute left. But in John 14:7 and John 10:30, Jesus said, I and the Father are one. You know, this is a very delicate issue because we are to be respectful of all religions, all faiths. and to study and to learn about them. I have, in the past, I've studied world religions. I'm not a scholar, for sure, but I think that the issue here, again, is that Jesus has declared himself, and we as Christians believe that he is God. And my question is, does Islam, I think Islam, if I'm correct, and maybe someone would care to address that, believes that Jesus was a prophet, but not God in flesh. So that is our issue. So the issue is really with truth. If the truth of that statement, if that was what was actually in the book, then I would have a problem with endorsing that book for students in this county. And Jesus was a Jew. You know, his earliest disciples were and followers were all Jewish. Believers were first called Christians in Antioch long before the Catholic Church and Protestantism came. So that's another point I read somewhere in one of the articles. I just wanted to clear that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jordan. Next speaker, Vicki, looks like Leslie. Approach the podium, give us your name and address.
Hi, Vicki Leslie, 700 Rector Drive, Kingsport, Tennessee. And I want to thank y'all for all that you do, and your presentations tonight were wonderful. These students, these teachers, it was just wonderful. Thank you. And I wanted to say, y'all are not bad people. Even if you adopt these books, you're not bad people. You're trying to do what you feel is the best thing. But there are some of us that hold maybe a little different religious belief or practice. And my first question is, if you approve these books, will there be multiple viable alternatives for those who oppose and consider this to be Islamic indoctrination? And I wanted to say that the Tennessee Religious Freedom Amendment guarantees that no government entity shall substantially burden a person's free exercise of religion, even if the burden results from a rule of general applicability. So I wanted you to think about, when you draw a circle, you know, we talk about all the time about inclusion, exclusion. Can you make inclusion and not draw the circle so narrow that you put out people outside the circle? Can you make alternatives for them? And is there a way, do you have other kinds of texts that can address the learning objective without burdening the religious beliefs of some of your students and parents? And I wanted to say, the more hardline you are, the more hardline we seem to be versus being accommodating, you force people out. And I don't know if you want the Sullivan County school system to have students to leave, because, you know, it is in the future that there will be vouchers that may be possible for, you know, objecting parents to take their children other places. And also, when you're so hardcore and you, not saying that you do it in a mean-spiritedness or anything, but when you draw the circle so narrow, then students leave, they go to homeschool, they go to private education. And I would say, look for a way that you can accommodate all the interests. And you know, we're big enough and smart enough people that we can do that. We have all kinds of ways to accommodate people. Even in the school system, you accommodate handicapped, you accommodate the gifted, you accommodate the under-gifted. You know, there's always all kinds of ways to accommodate. And then I wanted to say, too, that, you know, when you research, like, you know, a textbook, you know, you think, well, it doesn't really have much of a background, but textbooks do have backgrounds. The people who write the textbooks, and of course, Pearson Education, one of its largest shareholders is the Libyan Investment Authority. And they in 2011, they held 26 million shares of stock. And, you know, as parents, when they have this pro-Islamic teaching in the school, and we know that the textbooks are being infiltrated with Islamic indoctrination, and that the shareholders are mostly from Libyan countries, that's a concern to us. And like the gentleman said, you know, as Christians, we believe that there is no God but Jesus Christ and His Son. And we appreciate y'all, appreciate all that you're doing. And then I wanted to say too, for the parents that really want to know what's in the textbooks, how would they be given access? Because I know a lot of books do not go home to the parents. It's on computer. How will parents have access to? You know, you may have a system that they can go into the teacher's curriculum, the teaching methods, and all that. But I know in years past that parents, you know, found worksheets associated with the teaching of Islam that was very offensive. And so, you know, I just pray that you know, we can all come together and that there'll be a good resolution, because y'all are good people. And we're all here trying to do the best we can for our families, and I appreciate y'all.
Are you going to be here for the end of the meeting, during the meeting?
Do what now?
Are you going to be here later during the meeting? Are you going to stay?
Yes, yes.
Good. We're not going to address each speaker individually,
Okay.
but we're going to address these comments later on, so I hope you'll stay.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bart Fowler, please approach the podium. Give us your name, address, and you got three minutes or so.
Okay. My name is Bart Fowler, 685 Somerville Road, and I am here because of the textbook.
Pardon me, Somerville Road. What's the rest of that address?
685 Somerville Road, Kingsport, Tennessee, 37663, sir. And I have some scripture to read. John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Yes. Down to verse 14. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory, and the glory as the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. We believe that in Christianity that Jesus is God. When we look at the textbooks of these things that are taught to our children these days, you know, we look at how America, there's a song, I think it's by the Red Hot Chili Peppers or whatever, you know, give it away, give it away, give it away, you know. And, you know, it started a long time ago, and whether people like it or not, we were founded as a Christian nation. The Bible was the school book for over 200 years, the blueback speller and so forth. This was a Christian nation, founded as a Christian nation. But just because we want to maintain and keep a Christian nation, we are considered bad people, Islamophobic, this and that, because we don't agree with somebody else's. We can love them. And I'm here to love them because I will tell them the truth out of love. But I'm just saying that we have given this country away and given it away. There's no way that I could step off of a plane in an Islamic country wearing this shirt, holding my Bible, without being killed, imprisoned. And I'm just saying, we have a constitution here in the United States, and they have the freedom to come here and worship here in the United States. But as I look at this school book here, and what I have seen right here, I'm going to read something out of the school book. Preaching a new message, Muhammad began to preach the streets of Mecca. He told Arabs to worship only one God and to change many of their behaviors. He said that he had received revelations and revealed truths from God. He said that it was the same God who had spoken to Abraham, Jesus, and other figures of Judaism and Christianity. For this reason, Islam is called the Abrahamic religion. Muhammad respected those two religions. Muslims believe he was a final prophet. As we look at this here, it goes totally against the teachings here in America. And I'd stand on how America was founded and what we stand for. We do stand for freedoms. But, you know, why we give it away? You can't, they don't teach Bible in the school anymore. We don't have prayer in school anymore. We abort our babies on the altar of Satan. You know, we've just given this country away. Why we bend over to please these people? Love them in the name of Jesus Christ. But, you know, just like, you know, I'm a sinner saved by grace. Everybody's a sinner. You're either a sinner saved by grace or you're a sinner lost in need of a Savior. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is we're here to tell people the truth, and it's okay for all the countries in the world to stand on truth and to stand on what they believe, but it's not okay for America to stand on it. And we have given everything away, and we are indoctrinating our children with sin. We're glorifying sin.
Yeah.
And it's just, I just oppose this mightily. And I do respect you all. And you have a decision to make. And you know, my God doesn't force anybody to do anything. He offers the truth and He offers salvation to all. Amen. It's your choice. Amen. Praise the Lord.
Amen.
I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Richard Pinoski. Please state your name and address. And did I not pronounce your name correctly?
Close enough.
Okay. Give it to me.
Penkoski. Yes, sir. So I want to thank you guys for letting me speak here tonight. I'm here to talk about the World Book, and this is an issue that I am intimately acquainted with. I moved to Tennessee from West Virginia in December, and one of the reasons I moved here is because this exact book was taught to my children in Martinsburg, West Virginia public schools. Some of you may not know, but I actually became quite a public figure last year because of this story. And in that book, they asked our kids to recite the Shahada in Arabic under the guise of calligraphy. And for those of you that don't know, reciting the Shahada makes you a Muslim. And if you then recant, the penalty is death.
Hello.
They then asked the kids, taught them the 5 pillars of faith, and asked my daughter to fast during Ramadan. It is not a school's job to teach faith or doctrine to children. That is the parents' job.
Amen.
This book says that God and Allah are the Titus 1:2 says, "In the hope of eternal life, which God, who cannot lie, promised long ages ago." Let me give you 2 quotes from the Quran. You tell me if it's the same God. Quran 3:54. "And they, the unbelievers, plan to deceive. And Allah planned to deceive the unbelievers. And Allah is the best of deceivers." The book isn't even factually accurate. How could you say that the God of the Bible and the God of the Quran are the exact same God when one's a liar and one is not? The Bible tells us in 1 John, we love people in action and in truth, not in our words and speech. The fact that we're here today to talk about this doesn't mean we don't love Muslims. We love them enough to tell them the truth. And the truth is that if you don't worship the God of the Bible, if you don't accept Jesus Christ, you are going to hell. And saying that is not untruthful. It's not Islamic terrorist activity in America and abroad. The news media has defended Islam by calling it a religion of peace. But there is an unpleasant truth about Islam. The Quran, terrorism, and killing that everyone needs to know. The Quran, which is the source of Islamic theology and a guide to Muslim behavior, along with the Hadith, definitely advocates killing non-Muslims.
You're right.
Surah 9:5. "But when the forbidden months are past, then fight and slay the pagans wherever you find them, and seize them, beleaguer them, and lie in wait for them in every stratagem. But if they repent and establish regular prayers and practice regular charity, then open the way for them, for Allah is oft-forgiving, most merciful." Surah 9:29. "Fight those who believe not in Allah, nor the last day, nor hold that forbidden, which has been forbidden by Allah and His Apostle, nor acknowledge the truth of the people of the book." And for those of you who don't know, the people of the book are us, Christians.
Yep.
"Until they pay the jizya." And if you know what that is a tax that the Muslims want us to pay in order to be alive in their cities. "With willing submission and feel themselves subdued." The Quran is not arranged chronologically or topically. Instead, it is arranged from the largest surah first to the smallest. So, for example, the last surah written is Surah 110, and the second to last is Surah 9. In addition, there's a concept in Islam called abrogation. This means that the later surah are more authoritative than the ones before it. Surah 9 is the second to last surah written in the Quran. Therefore, it is the final word since the last surah in the Quran, 110. Contains nothing that relates to Surah 9. Remember, it is Surah 9 that is the admonition to kill non-Muslims until the population of unbelievers are subdued under Islamic law.
Come on.
The unpleasant truth is that the Quran teaches the faithful Muslim to be at war with unbelievers until they are subdued. This war includes killing in order to bring about Islamic order worldwide. Islam is inconsistent with Western education and ideology. Islam is a political ideology masquerading as a religion to take advantage of our religious freedom laws.
Amen.
Islam means submission. Have we learned nothing from history? Our God came to earth and died for us. Their God tells them to murder for Him.
Amen.
Next item on the agenda is Chairman's report. If everyone would turn to your calendars, review the dates that we talked about last week. We tentatively we have a work session scheduled for 4/23 at 4:30 and a special call meeting at 6:30 the same night. Does everyone have that same date in their notes? Everybody still okay with it? The next date is 5/7, regular meeting, 6:30. Keep in mind we could have a special call meeting related to the director search between now and then. Still waiting on some available dates and information. Everyone okay with those dates? That's all I have. I'll turn the meeting back over to the director.
Thank you, Chairman Hughes. Next item on the agenda is item number 6, unfinished business policy. Item 6A, which is policy 1.400, school board meetings. This is changing our current meeting schedule as of June 1 as follows. Our work sessions will be on the 4th Thursday of the month, and our regular meeting of the board will be on the 1st Thursday of the month. I recommend approval.
You have a recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Jones. Here a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Robinson. Discussion? Hearing none.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Item 6B is the Holston Institute / warehouse property. Mr. Hull spent some time at our work session going over the document which he had prepared for you in regard to the deeds on that property. I would ask at this time if Mr. Hull has any additional comments.
I don't. I guess summarizing what we found is that our title there is good, and there are some problems just generally with boundaries in terms of the way they're laid out in the deeds and the way they lay out on the ground. But that's not unusual when you have deeds that go back to 1888. So in all, I don't think there's anything there that would be striking or unusual, and we've occupied that property for so long that I don't think there's any concern about that. There is the restriction on the property where the building is located, that it's to be used for educational purposes, and it does have a reversion clause there. But we did talk about the possibility of exploring if there's any thing that can be done about that, if we want to address that. So I guess that'll be a topic for later.
Actually, I thought we might entertain that motion tonight to make the recommendation to ask an attorney what the process is and get a cost. Would that be appropriate here tonight?
Well, I think it's fine to, I'll certainly do that. I don't think you need to vote on that. Mr. Spivey may have a suggestion, but we'll do that. It will probably be difficult, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I'm not sure you're going to find a lot of people that'll say, I'll do it for X number of dollars. They usually bill by the hour, and I mean, they may, but typically you don't know what you're getting into. So,
but we could find out if there's a process and what it is.
Right,
right. We could do that.
Absolutely. Pardon?
I said you would do that. You would do that.
We talked about getting a specialist in real estate, which I'm not, and I lean on those folks when we need a specialist. So I'll just look into it, see what we think that's going to cost, and I'll report back to you.
The next item on the agenda is in unfinished business is item 6C, which is the update on bids for video on board meetings. I did give you what information I had last Thursday at the work session. I've since gotten even more information. I think rather than try to dissect that information this evening, I would like to move that agenda item to our May meeting so that we can have a more in-depth conversation in regard to the hosting topic of the video, whether it's hosted in one place or another and that kind of thing. So with the board's indulgence, I would like to move that to our May board meeting.
Any opposition to that?
All right, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is item number 7, new business, and 7A is the textbook adoption. I want to make sure, I'm going to do as best I can to provide as much clarity to this as possible. The state requires us, it is state law, that we go through an adoption process. Because you adopt a textbook or a series of textbooks does not mean that you necessarily will purchase or have to purchase anything on that textbook list. You can even apply for a waiver if there's something else that you want to select that's not on that list. We as a school district, just like every other school district in the state of Tennessee, are required to respond to the State Department of Education by April 15th that we have actually conducted the adoption process. As we've conducted that adoption process, we have met the criteria that is prescribed by the State Department of Education. That being that committees were selected and the board approved those committees in at our October board meeting. We did have a change made to one of the committees, meaning one person was changed in November. The committees first met in October the 25th, and at that point they take an oath, they learn about the process, and they begin the textbook review process. In January of 2019, there were samples sent to all of our schools that had samples of all the textbooks that are on the state-approved textbook list. There's not just one on a grade level, content specific area textbook. There are multiple textbooks on these that are sent to the schools that are on the state-approved textbook list. In January and February, the committee members spend time reviewing these textbooks. They spend time talking to other people in that content area in their schools as well. Then in February, there's actually what's called the textbook caravan, where many of the publishers come through, as they do in all school districts in the state, and do presentations in regard to those textbooks. These textbooks are we go through an adoption cycle every year for textbooks for a different content area. Once we select a textbook, if indeed we do select a textbook from that list, we have those textbooks for 5 years, 5 to 6 years. We had several, or the committees had several meetings to gather feedback. At this point, there has been no final selections made on any textbooks in our school district. Some of the areas, content areas that are on the textbook adoption list don't even have textbooks being recommended in those areas. What I am asking the board to do tonight is to vote to adopt, to say that we have gone through the process and we are doing what is called a blanket adoption, which means that in the final process, when a textbook is selected, then we have already adopted that textbook. That doesn't mean that we are purchasing or we have made a final selection or that that committee or any committee has made a final selection at this point. Again, the vote tonight is to do a blanket adoption, not to make a purchase. We are bound by law to adopt, not to purchase. The public notice, there will be a public notice review that is getting ready to be published. That will be prior to the final adoption per our board policy. That is April 15th, 2019 from 4 to 6 p.m. at Acres Service Center, which is our warehouse location. We will have that location staffed that evening. We will have all of the textbooks from grades kindergarten through 12th grade for any area in social studies, history, accounting, psychology, economics. Every topic that is on the textbook approval list for this year will be there.
What was that date?
The date is April 15th, 2019 from 4 to 6 p.m. at Acres Service Center. That is the public notice for all our schools or any community member who wants to review those textbooks to come by. But in order for us to comply with the requirement for adoption, we have to do, our board has to take a vote and we have to submit that we have gone through the adoption process, which is exactly what we have done. And we have followed not only our policy, but state board guidelines on textbook selection. Now that being said, there was one other thing that I did want to address, as we have in other situations. This isn't a Q&A time, but it is something that I will make a comment on. As far as accommodations being made, we have always made accommodations when requested in regard to science, social studies, even a math situation. At one time we made an accommodation. So we are very open to that and would be very receptive to anyone who is making that request. So as in regard to the textbook piece, and the last thing, and I apologize, I did not say that. The standards that are covered in any content area that we are expected to teach in the state of Tennessee are set by the State Board of Education. Now we're compliant with those standards as they come from the State Board of Education. Textbooks in every content area bill themselves as that textbook which covers all the standards. It is up to our textbook committees in any given year. Next year you'll be sitting here and it will be the English language arts textbooks. It is their task to make a recommendation, and those final recommendations again have not been made, and they will come later. So again, my recommendation to the board tonight is that we do a blanket adoption. This is an adoption. This is not a vote to purchase any specific textbook. In fact, last year during the adoption cycle, we did the same thing for science. We've done the same thing annually for as long as I can remember, and I've been in this office for 20 years. Last year, we purchased carts of Chromebooks so that we could use digital content in our classrooms, because that was the recommendation from the science textbook committees. We still have our committees who are discussing what they think is the best situation for their students and for them moving forward. So my recommendation tonight is for us, and I'm going to ask the board to take a vote, for a blanket adoption so that we can meet what we're required to do, and that is submit this form to the state of Tennessee by April the 15th, which states that the Sullivan County Board of Education approved the adoption of textbooks as indicated on the attached local adoption report. That is it. That's an adoption. This has nothing to do with a purchase, and this has nothing to do with an individual textbook.
Ma'am, may I make a
No, you
comment,
cannot.
please?
No,
So,
no.
that is what I have, Mr. Hughes. So at this point,
You could choose
I
not
would
to,
recommend that
adopt.
we do a blanket adoption for our social studies textbooks.
You have a recommendation. Do I hear a motion? I'll make that motion. Mr. Gilmore makes a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Spivey seconds the motion.
Discussion.
I'll say that. Discussion on the motion?
Discussion.
I think the concern of so many of our citizens is that we did in fact adopt My World textbook for social studies the last adoption period. So I am, I just have a statement to make that in light of that, the United States of America was established on biblical principles and the rule of law based on the Ten Commandments.
Amen.
Our Constitution.
We'll have order.
Every single.
Hold on. We've had public comment, and now we'll have order. We'll have order now. Go ahead.
Every single member of this board took a sworn oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. Every elected office in this country swears to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. When we want, and I defer to the First Amendment, and you know, we seem to be so ignorant of our own Constitution and our own amendments. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. We want our parents in our homes and churches and Sunday schools to instruct our children in faith and belief in God. That is not the job of the public schools. Teachers are not equipped nor want the responsibility to teach comparative religions. When you look at this text yourself, and I really encourage people to look at the textbook for themselves. I want you to take note of the essential questions that are at the ends of chapters and throughout the book that we're asking our 12-year-olds, our 13-year-olds, our 10-year-olds to discuss. We should be teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic. Used to teach history and government.
Stop. We very politely held public comment, and now there'll be silence in the boardroom, or we'll have to ask everyone to leave. Please be, we respected your right to speak. Now, it's the board's turn. Go ahead.
We used to teach history and government, and now it's called social studies, and I think social being the key word. We cannot stand by as a Board of Education and allow this philosophical confusion being introduced into the hearts and minds of our children sitting in their school desk. And as a note, the other textbooks are more of the same, not just the Pearson textbook. I can't even remember the name of the other one. I didn't write it. The others I didn't write it down.
McGraw.
But it's more McGraw. They're all the same. Western civilization cannot be taught as history without religious freedoms, and Islam is a religious government. If one adheres to Sharia law one cannot submit to the Constitution of the United States of America. We have posted in every one of our schools now, because it is state law, "In God We Trust." Which God are we referring to? A specific question was asked by a student in our system that still haunts me. And he said, "But Miss Blank, I thought there was only one God." The answer to that is yes, there is only one God. And we must choose this day who we will follow. Our constitutional republic will not remain free for all to live and worship under Sharia law. And we're hearing that from the halls of Congress. I'm asking my fellow board members to vote no on the proposed social studies that we adopted last time for sure. It is unconstitutional that we are teaching religion. And if you look at that textbook, that's exactly what it is. We can do much better than this for the students of Sullivan County and for the core values of the United States of America. And we'll all be free. This country must remain free. And I just hope that we can really look at this and allow the input of the citizens and taxpayers of Sullivan County to really investigate this and have input as taxpayers of this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Any other discussion?
I'm saddened that we're having this discussion. This is a public school district. I would commend you, Ms. Thomas, to also read Article 1, Section 3 of the Tennessee Constitution. And I just want citizens of Sullivan County to know that I don't want a single student in this school system, as the public commenter made the comment, to feel excluded.
We need to do it.
The very fact that Ms. Thomas brings up which God are we talking about in our school district is a preference of religion. That is unconstitutional. Second, if you, Ms. Thomas, I didn't interrupt you. Second, if you actually read these texts, facts about what people believe is not indoctrination. It is not proselytizing. That's what we heard in public comment tonight, which is your absolute right under the Constitution. I deeply respect that. And that's why I'm making this point, because this is a public education system. Sullivan County and the county school systems under the Constitution are constitutionally mandated to provide a free and public education to all students, regardless of race, creed, or their religious preference. If you actually look at the text and the state standards, learning about culture and history is not indoctrination. It is fact. Ignoring facts is ignorance. And I'm saddened that this is the discussion that we're having right now in Sullivan County, because Ms. Thomas made a comment in the paper about this doesn't reflect the beliefs of our community. I believe that East Tennessee is a pragmatic, hardworking, accepting people. The idea that our school system favors one God over another, or that we should even ask which God it is part of the problem with this discussion. We've kind of skipped over the issue. The issue is state standards and adopting a textbook. I am in favor of going forward with the director's recommendation, and as I said in the work session, I hope that all students in Sullivan County know that our board, I believe, at least I can speak for my behalf, and I think most of us do want to promote inclusion, and we are not stating preference on this board for any one religion. Thank you.
Further discussion?
The word religion, if we could put that.
When I say discussion, it means from the board. Public had the right to discuss earlier. Further discussion?
I taught American history in this county for 23 years and served as an administrator for 6 more. I also started the Fellowship of Christian Athletes at Sullivan North in 1987, 88, and as far as I know, it still exists. When I moved to Bluff City Middle, I started a chapter of the FCA there. My son is an ordained minister. Both of my sons have done mission trips to India, and one son taught in Beijing for a year. It was very important for my sons to understand the cultures that they were attempting to demonstrate Christ in. It was very important that they understood what Hindus believed and what Buddhists believed. And it was very important for them to spread the fragrance of Christ, as it is for us in all situations that we find ourselves. In the public school setting, as I've examined these texts, it is Muslims believe, and it outlines it. It is a point of view. It is Christians believe, and it outlines. Jesus' Sermon on the Mount is included in the text. There's nothing proselytizing. There is nothing that would cause me as a parent or as an educator to be fearful. Because if my sons were not grown and they came to me with questions, then it is my job to say, well, yes, this is what they believe, and this is what we believe and why. So I appreciate your passion, your faith, your expressions of that. But as far as us, we have a responsibility to render to Caesar what is Caesar's, and we're obligated by law to protect all students and to follow the process as outlined by the Tennessee Department of Education. And if you don't like that process, then you need to contact your legislators, because the board is obligated to do our responsibility. Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none?
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
No.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
No.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
No.
The next item on the agenda is item 7B, policy 5.106, application and employment. I recommend approval of that policy and its changes on first reading.
You have a recommendation. Do I hear a motion? I'll make that motion. Do I hear a second? Mr. Spivey seconds the motion. Discussion?
Just take notice when you vote. Look.
Hearing none.
Hey, are they elected? The school board's elected?
Mr. Robinson? Yes. Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas? Mr. Gilmore?
I gotta catch up with you right there.
Next item on the agenda is policy 7C, policy 5.118, which is background checks. Again, I recommend approval on first reading of this policy.
You have a recommendation. Do I hear a second? Motion. Mr. Spivey makes a motion. I hear a second.
Second.
Mr. Jones seconds the motion. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none?
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Item 7D is the next item on the agenda, and that is collaborative conferencing. I would ask the board tonight to approve the team as being recommended. The team is Kim Blevins from Bluff City Middle School and Gloria Watson Elementary, Tim Dale, Indian Springs, Jamie Robinette from Ketron, Lloyd Putney, Sullivan Central, Logan Kemp, Sullivan Central, Athena Warren from Mary Hughes, Jeremy McLaughlin, Sullivan Central, Evelyn Rafalowski, Director, Angela Buckles, William Miller, Brent Palmer, Karen Nave, Robin McClellan, and Ingrid Deloach, and Sarah Aker. I would ask the board to, Mark Arson is the board member who is appointed. He doesn't need approval in this vote. So that is the team that I bring forth to the board.
You have a recommendation?
I'll make a motion, we accept that.
Mr. Gilmore makes a motion. Mr. Jones seconds the motion. Discussion? Hearing none.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is item 7E, which is school fees for 2019-2020. This is an annual agenda item. These fees have not changed. We are not recommending any increases. I recommend approval.
We have a recommendation. Do I hear a motion? Mr. Spivey makes the motion. Do I hear a second? Mr. Jones seconds the motion. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Item 7G is the renovation fund amendment. This amendment is to move $10,000 from building improvements to other contracted services. I recommend approval.
We have a recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Jones makes a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Gilmore seconds that motion. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none.
Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Item 7H is the resolution to oppose educational savings accounts, ESAs. That resolution is being sponsored by board member Mr. Spivey. I would ask if he has any comments before I present this.
Just briefly, and we covered this in the work session, and I commend the TSBA for setting out the position points that I asked everyone to look over. But this, to me, is getting closer and closer to the traditional voucher program that has been sought after for 50 years to use public taxpayer money to fund private education. I have no problem with private education. I do have a problem with using taxpayer dollars to pay for it. The program and ESAs is another word that is being used in my view, as a political term because vouchers got such a bad name. I don't see any data out there that supports that it actually helps with any kind of education. And part of the reason that I feel that we don't see that data is because they have no accountability. They're not required to report in the same manner as public boards of education, subject to these open meetings. You get to hear the good and the bad about your ideas in these public meetings, and that's what democracy is about. And that's why I hope that we would all, as members of a board of public education, hope that the state would, I have no problem with them allocating another $125 million over the next 3 years. I just ask that they do it for public education and not for a small group of students. And then finally, a point I made earlier in the work session, I think that for us in Northeast Tennessee to simply sit back and take the viewpoint that this won't affect our educational systems is short-sighted, because if you look at the number of school districts in the state that would be impacted by this bill, it covers nearly a third of all public school districts. And any time that you're taking money and putting it towards an ESA or a voucher or whatever name you want to give it, and it's not being spent in public education, is taking dollars away that the legislator could allocate to public education, and that's why I oppose it.
Any other discussion?
Yes. In addition, anytime you take federal monies, state monies, those same standards that are required, the same testing that is required will go into that private school situation, Christian school situation, homeschool, and I doubt that they're going to just test one or two kids. They'll end up testing everybody. So it is an inroad into our private and Christian education. I feel.
And one final point I would throw out there that has developed since our work session that is deeply troubling to me as a member of the Board of Public Education is the Tennessee School Board Association we are a member in Sullivan County, and as are many boards throughout the state, an amendment was made after our work session that directly attacks the Tennessee School Board Association. The legislator is trying to, because the TSBA has such a strong lobby, and I would note that almost all public education bodies, whether it's the superintendents, the TSBA, or other organizations are opposed to this. They have directly attacked the TSBA and tried to tack on an amendment to this bill that requires that any contracted services with the TSBA be publicly bid. There's no other governmental entity in a similar position that is being required to do this. So I would note to the public to look into why legislatures are making those kinds of amendments, attacking a state board of education body that supports our public education system. That might show you the motives.
Mr. Sullivan, when this legislation was started, was it promoted as something that was for lower income families?
It was, and I believe in the initial stages it was targeted at the bottom 10% performing school districts. However, if you look at the amendments, there is a lack of accountability because it only requires that a child be in a district that has one of three, I believe, that are in the bottom 10%, but it doesn't track that child, so someone could move into that district, move out, and get the money. They have since made some amendments to try to get back to the lower income students, but I would just note if you can allocate $125 million to public education, that is going to help a lot more kids than the 5,000 initially in the first year that the program's targeted at.
But isn't it true that it's 260% of the poverty line, which amounts to $76,420 for
You're exactly correct, Mr. Hughes, and initially it was a higher number than that, and it amounted to, if you had a family of 4 and you made less than $96,000, then you would have qualified for this program. And I would know the median income in Sullivan County for most families of 4 is much lower than that. So I don't know that even when we lower it down to 76, that's still not going to be our median here. And as I said before, whether we can easily step back where it's sold to Northeast Tennessee as it doesn't affect us, it does, because that's $125 million that some of our legislatures are willing to spend on 5,000, 10,000, or 15,000 kids over 3 years. And if they're going to allocate that, I ask that they allocate it to public education in the state.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we have a recommendation. I'm sorry, Paul.
Wouldn't this also help my area with tuition for the new high school? They say they look for a closer school?
No, it wouldn't, Mr. Robinson. It is targeted at districts that have, or a student that is located within a district that has 3 schools that are in the bottom 10%. So no, it would not help our area. We're not even on the cusp list, which is the list that would show you the potential districts. And that's how it's being sold to a lot of Northeast Tennessee people, is it won't impact you at all. But my point is, if we're willing to take $125 million and put it towards this small program, it is impacting every student in the state. But to answer your question, no, it wouldn't. We don't have any schools that are down that low that will qualify, because it's not solely based on income, it's also based on the performance of the district if you read the bill.
Any further discussion? Hearing none?
No, wait.
All right,
Clarify the vote, yes or no.
A yes vote is to vote yes for the resolution. Opposing a yes vote is...
Right, I would make a motion on that. We didn't ever make a formal motion, so I would move that we adopt a resolution opposing the educational savings accounts.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
A second. Any other discussion? Hearing none.
Mr. Gilmore,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
No.
Mr. Spivey,
Yes.
Ms. Thomas.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes, that concludes the agenda that I have for this evening. Thank you.
Any other comments from any of the board?
We didn't have any non-agenda.
I do not see any non-agenda public comment.
I would ask that each board member please sign the resolution that you, before you leave this evening.
We didn't do a good job of that last time.
Christy, I'm going to hand this to you so you can.
We stand adjourned.
Are you going to address the comment?
She, Michael.
Are you going to